Black Tengu Productions.
Everyone, let's get started for part 2. I'm just foaming the background, and then I'm using a brush on a drill, a metal brush on a drill, just to sand it down. And the reason we do this is because once you spray the foam, it's great stuff foam or pond foam to create your background. It's very smooth, and it's just not a very realistic look. And so I use this kind of drill to just, make it more look like rocky, barky, more realistic tones. And also, it's just better texture for them to climb up on rather than something smooth. I'd also recommend doing this outside and wearing a mask. This is a huge mess. And whenever you're working with like tiny plastic particles, it's just not the greatest thing to inhale. So just stay safe. Clip, we're doing the hardscape, and this is wood, and I'm using aquarium safe wood because you want wood that can stand up to the test of time with the high humidity. And so this is really heavy wood and dense wood, not light wood. And I use tape to kind of stick it up and hold it kind of in the configuration I want, and then I kind of foam the sides again in order to get it to stick. And you can kind of see it's foamed in now. But in the previous clip, that was tape that was used just to hang it in position, and that's kind of the most hard part really about this, is making sure you hang it in and keep it stable while you foam it into place. And now we're painting the background. And so here I'm using Drylock, a can of Drylock, and just the gray and some cement paint. So the cement paint, I have grit in mine, so it adds more like texture and grip to the background for plants to grow up. But you don't have to get the cement paint that has that. You can see it in the background, that bottom. So I'm kind of just mixing, the browns and the grays to make certain tones, and then I'll kind of come back in later and I'll do a dry brush over it, and I'll kind of give lighter tones to the pieces that kind of protrude more forward. But really, you really don't have to be a great painter to do this. Just add different colors and just keep it earthy and just keep playing around with it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And one thing you also have to notice is that at certain angles you'll kind of flash light through it, and you'll notice like there's these pockets or holes. You're never gonna get everything perfectly sealed, but you can try. And so don't drive yourself crazy when you start seeing little gaps and little holes and everything. That's okay. Another thing is you can do multiple layers of this if you want to really harden up the background even more and more. I just do one coat. It seems like it's enough for me. Maybe I'll regret it in the long run. But if you really want to be super safe or make a more stiffer background, you can add multiple coats. Just let them dry in between. It's the first tank. We're getting ready to do a water test, because I probably should have done that before I did the background. Better late than never, no, right? So here's the finished product. A ledge right there. Yeah. So this piece just juts out at you. That piece just comes out at you. I like this one more in terms of the flow. Back to this one, I thought about putting something up there, but I got lazy. It'll be fine. It's more than enough. Cool. Alright, we're starting the water test. And this is just pouring buckets of water into the tank just to make sure it doesn't leak. You should have done this way earlier on in the process. Hopefully you're not building this tank and watching the video real time. Watch the whole videos and then get to building. But yeah, if it does happen to leak, then you can silicone it more. If you're really stickler, you can redo it again. But I also recommend getting a shop vac just to like clean up the mess and the water. It makes everything much faster. Start building the layers. So the first layer is the drainage layer, and this is where the water that doesn't sit in the substrate will flow through and kind of sit in this clay ball Leca area, where it'll kind of stay humid but it won't hold water. And you can see I leave it about 2 inches, and that's kind of my preferred depth for that. And here I'm making a kind of tube that I'll use to drain the bottom of the tank, that will fill with water, because you don't want your substrate filling up with water. Now this is this substrate barrier. This keeps the substrate from falling into the leca and mixing, because it's lighter, so it'll fall deeper into the leca. And mixing and causing your soil to stay constantly wet, and then it'll erode you'll get mold, you'll get all kind of issues. So this barrier is really important. Choose a really good barrier. Yeah, pre-wet this substrate, because this kind of substrate is like what they call like hydrophobic, where like once it dries out, it doesn't really it kind of like pushes water away. Kind of like you have those coats that are like supposed to be like waterproof. It kind of does the same thing when it's dry. It's pretty weird. So you gotta like pre-soak it, like really let it sit in water so it absorbs it. It shouldn't be like soaking wet though. It should just be like nice and moist. And this is cuttlebone. Some people use limestone, but it's a way of adding kind of like natural calcium to the substrate. And the reason you want to do that is because dart frogs easily can have like calcium problems. One, because we're not providing UVB, so they're not absorbing D3 to produce calcium for their bones, and neither are they getting enough insects to have high in calcium. So we can kind of gut load the natural fauna, microfauna, aka like isopods and springtails, and they'll kind of eat at this, or like if you just sprinkle like dust it and like crunch this around, and they'll be kind of gut loaded with calcium, or they'll be high in calcium, and in turn your dart frogs will be high in calcium. So yeah. So I just kind of, you don't even gotta go crazy, just kind of roughly sprinkle that in there. You know, just wanna make sure there's enough. You know, because a lot of things people gotta understand, like just with pets, your body, and humans and animals in general, is that like you're only as good as what you eat. But even farther than that, you're only as good as what you eats, right? So if you feed your frogs like malnutritioned flies, not say that they're gonna be malnutritioned, but they're not gonna be as nutritious as they could have been if they ate like really high quality, you know, or flies, or like microfauna that eat really high quality foods. Here's my cat causing trouble. So. Alright, so now it's time to add the substrate. Just make sure. Just don't want this barrier. So we're looking for about 2 inches substrate. I think the general rule with plants is that they need at least like 2 inches substrate to really be well rooted in there. You don't really need to pack your substrate either. Roots like it airy. Roots need air, believe it or not. I don't know the science behind that, but they do. Have some moss. So I never showed the misting system. Bucket of water, Mistking pump comes up, pushes water through a bunch of timers I have in there, and the water goes up, 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 and then mist through there, and then I have these top enclosures for my geckos on a different timer, so they mist at different times. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. It's pretty much the end of the video at this point. But if you want some nice footage of the tanks behind me and just some chill footage with some music, stay tuned for a couple more minutes and enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye.